So what is up, guys and girls? Halloween coming at you live from Lincolnshire. Hoping to answer one or two questions. Probably the question that I've been asked the most, which is how much does it cost to get into motorcycling? I'm just starting out. I need everything. I have nothing. How much is it going to cost me? Well, hopefully we'll be able to answer that today. So, of course, the first thing that you need to do when you're looking at learning to ride a motorcycle is to go and get your CBT done. Now, if you don't know what your CBT is, then you're probably not from the UK. I am going to base this video on somebody in the UK who wants to learn how to ride and is trying to tot up the cost. Your CBT is your compulsory basic training. It's the very first thing that you must do. My advice, do it before you get any gear, before you get a bike, before you do anything. It's going to cost you somewhere between 100 and 120 pounds. If you go to the higher end of that, so say 120, you're going to be able to borrow a bike from the school that you do it with, plus all the gear, so on and so forth. And it's going to give you a good idea of, number one, how to ride a bike, and number two, whether you're actually going to like it or not before you make any kind of investment into the lifestyle, because it isn't cheap. Once you've done your CBT, there are a couple of other expenditures that you might find yourself investing in. So let's say you've done your CBT, you've got that out of the way, you've spent your £120 and you think, right, this is it, bike life is for me. Well, now you've got a couple of routes to go down depending on what age you are. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to assume that you are of age and you're able to get onto a big motorcycle. By big, I mean anything above a 125cc. Although not quite yet, because of course you're only on your CBT, you've paid your £120 for that, and you can ride around legally on a 125 machine. Are you going to purchase a 125cc machine? If you are, you're going to probably want to spend around about £2,000 or so to get yourself a decent, reliable 125. I have done a video on 125cc bikes. You can find that up here if you want to go and check those machines out. But you're probably looking around about £2,000 for one of those used in reasonable condition and running well. So there's your first layout. Next, gear. Gear is a money pit. It is an absolute never-ending money pit, because you can start off very, very cheap and then it gets higher and higher and higher and higher. I'm going to give you a breakdown of the gear that I wear, and the reason that I think that that's appropriate is it isn't the best gear in the world, it isn't the cheapest gear in the world, it's somewhere in between, and it's something that I was comfortable starting with and spending money on. So, helmet. This is an MT helmet. All of this gear is pretty much available from Sports Bike Shop. Hopefully these guys will sponsor the video. Yay, go on Sports Bike, do it, why not? All of this gear, as I say, is available from Sports Bike Shop, and the helmet, mine is an MT. It cost around about £110, which in terms of helmets, as I say, isn't the cheapest, isn't the most expensive by any stretch of the imagination. A lot of people ask what they should be spending in a helmet. Now, my fairly simple answer to that is, well, how much is your head worth? That's a decision for you, not for me. My head is probably worth about 110 quid, give or take, maybe a bit less, but you get the idea. If there's one thing that I would say spend as much as you can on, and I will be replacing this helmet soon because it's gone kind of slack in the time that I've been having it, so I'll be replacing it, and I will be looking for probably a slightly more expensive helmet, somewhere around the 250, maybe even up to 300 mark. I know that it's not going to make a huge amount of difference in terms of safety, but it will make a difference, and so long as I choose the right helmet based on the correct specifications, I feel that's going to be a worthy investment. Next is going to be your gear. So we'll start from sort of the top, which we've done in our helmet. Next, your jacket or your gloves or your leathers. Yeah, you see how it starts to get a little bit complicated? My advice, get yourself a waterproof textile jacket. The reason that I say that is it's generally usable in all weathers and will allow you to both commute and do whatever you need to do, mess about at the weekends. My textile jacket has been an absolute godsend for me in days where it was pouring down with rain. It has been an absolute lifesaver. In terms of cost, I had one of the RST, I forget what it's called, -16, something like that. And again, you're talking around about the £100 mark for a decent jacket, making sure, of course, that it's got carbon, not carbon fibre, just armour in there that's going to treat you well in the event of an off. Gloves. Gloves, I have just gone for cheapy ones. I still ride around in my sort of £20 bargain basement Spada gloves. If I was going to give you any advice, again, just buy what you can afford, but £20 gloves for me are ample. No, they don't offer me the best protection in the world, and no, they're not the most comfortable things, but they serve a purpose, they do a job, and they are what they are. I'm more than happy with them. Trousers. A little bit of a, where have all these people come from? Trousers are a little bit of a bone of contention, simply because it's very much up to you what you wear. Now, I personally prefer a motorcycle trouser. I, for a very long time, rode around, even on a sports style bike, in some RST adventure motorcycle textiles. And the reason for that was that the amount of pockets on those things are incredible, and they're super handy when you're riding a motorbike. They do up really nice and tightly, and they will quite happily fit your wallet, your phone, e-cig, bloody, I don't know, a couple of Barbie dolls for the kids, whatever, all sorts of stuff in there. And again, you're probably looking at around about £120 or so for some trousers. And getting right down to the bottom, we're going to be looking at your boots. I always recommend motorcycle boots to anybody who is on a geared motorcycle. My wife works in a hospital. More than that, she works with the A&E department, and therefore I get to know quite a little bit about motorcyclist injuries. And the majority of the injuries that come in, and I'm talking about minor motorcycle accidents here, are broken ankles where they haven't been wearing boots. So based on that, I always advise people to wear motorcycle boots. And she, in fact, won't let me go out without motorcycle boots on, because even if you tip the bike the wrong way, you can end up breaking an ankle. Not that motorcycle boots will stop that from happening, but it will help to prevent it. It's an aid. My boots, my RSTs, they cost me around about £100 or so. You're getting kind of the idea of this, is that every piece of gear that you buy, with the exception of my cheapo gloves, is going to cost you about 100 quid. So if you're looking to deck yourself out top to bottom, you're talking 1, 2, 3, 4, around about £500 or so for some reasonable gear. Then, of course, you're going to want to get into leathers, perhaps. My leathers, my RSTs, they set me back around about £400. But of course that means that I didn't or don't now have to own textile jackets or jeans, but I do, because leathers aren't waterproof. Leathers are really only for the summer. The next thing that you're going to want to consider is motorcycle insurance. Now, it's really hard for me to tell you what your motorcycle insurance is going to be, because there are so many factors that are built into an insurance quote that I have absolutely no idea what you or what position you are going to be in specifically. What I can tell you is my experience of insurance. Now, back when I was 16, I had an Aprilia RS 125, sorry. And sorry, 16, 17, it would have been 17 if it was a 125. And I paid around about £1,000 on insurance third party on that machine, because I was so young, and it was a two-stroke monster, absolute monster, when I was 17. Now that I've got my full bike license and I'm on a Gixxer 6er, I'm paying around about sort of £500 a year, fully comprehensive, on a Gixxer 6er. That is with my bike obviously being garaged and data tagged and tracked and all this kind of malarkey, which might sound a little bit extreme for a bike that is 12 years old. But the fact of the matter is, I do not want to lose this bike. Many polices out today. Why so many polices out today? So we are talking between purchasing a bike, getting the insurance, getting the gear, you're probably not talking far off around about £2,000 to £3,000 there, obviously depending on the insurance, depending on what bike you buy. The next thing you need to consider is what are the licenses going to cost you to do. Now, bear in mind that in order to be able to ride a proper motorcycle, you are going to have to be able to have passed your CBT, your theory test, your Mod 1 and your Mod 2. 4 tests to get your arse onto a motorcycle, which is not cheap to do. You're going to need to factor in training, you're going to need to factor in this and that. I would say that you're probably quite easily looking at around about another £1,000 or so just on motorcycle training alone, if you're going to go all the way through to the Mod 2. So it is by no means a cheap hobby. Can you do it cheaper than the prices that I'm giving you? Yes, absolutely. Can you do it more expensive than the prices that I'm giving you? Incredibly so. But what I'm trying to give you an idea of is a rough estimate, and it is only rough, as to what it's going to cost you to actually get your behind onto a big boy motorcycle from start to finish. And as I say, adding all those things up, we come to ta-da! So not cheap in the slightest. So yes, motorcycling is something that's expensive to get into, but is it worth it? Absolutely it is.
Shit. The ground shake.